So yeah, so I'm talking again with Dave Lee, the chaos magician, and it struck me, that this thing, we've had the one God in various forms or another, Christianity and whatnot, and obviously the old time heathens, had multiple gods and goddesses, and in modern times we got neo-paganism, and it strikes me that okay, well, a lot of us have lost the one God, and then you've got people going into paganism, and this is something I really must ask lots of these people. Do you actually literally believe in these gods and goddesses, or are you, essentially atheist, or where do you stand? So I'm going to ask Dave, where do you stand, Dave?
This is a really, really interesting and complex question, and my views over it have changed over the years. When I was a science kid, I found science easy to do, easy to get high marks on in school. I didn't get good marks in much else. So I was always, and I found it interesting. So I was always a science kid. So I was very much, I suppose by my teens, I was probably an atheist. And, as I've got more and more into magic over the decades, I've become less of an atheist. I occupied a kind of Robert Anton Wilson style agnosticism for some years, of saying, okay, well, multi-model agnosticism. So today I'll believe that the goddess Brigid is real, and tomorrow I'll just go back to my normal atheism. So I went through that phase, and there's a lot of that in chaos magic. You can do okay, we're all going to invoke Hermes, so we all get dressed up in ancient Greek style, and we have best we can our temple or crossroads dedicated to Hermes, and we do, we have our staff and all of this stuff, and we do the business, and it works, and there's something there. But of course, later on, as soon as we come home, we change our clothes, we have a shower, and as soon as we're done, it's okay, that's it. I no longer believe in Hermes, not in that sense. So we put Hermes down into the psychological model of magic.
Yeah, well, I do, yeah.
Now, the psychological model of magic is the main one that magicians use in this culture, in this Western materialistic scientific culture, because it's the one that challenges our assumptions the least. And that's where I was for many years. Actually, I'll do a quick digression, if you don't mind, into different models of magic, because I think Ralph Tegmeyer nailed it decades ago with his 4 or 5, because the 5th one is the multi-model agnosticism, 4 models of magic. First, you've got psychological, which is all in the mind. It works, it's all in the mind. Then you've got kind of like I think he called it cybernetic, which is a bit of a hand-waving thing, but I'm not quite sure what it means. But chaos magicians use this idea a lot as well. The idea that you're generating information when you do a spell. The information kind of ripples out into the understratum of the world, which is made of information, and somehow the result pops up. The third one is the energy model, which is something that I engaged in intensely over some years as a result of doing connected breath work and then energy magic. And I mean, that you can project energy from the palm ones and it will heal people, and this stuff works. So you think of everything in terms of flows of energy. The 4th one is the hardest of all for people in this culture to believe in, and that's spirits. And it's probably the most ancient one. It's probably the one that our ancestors who worked magic will have believed in, and everything is spirits. This, obviously I'm made of a number of different spirits, you're made of a number of different spirits. This piece of paper is made of the spirits, it's kind of like it's got its own spirit because I've drawn something on it, and it's got the spirits of the trees that it was made from, etc., etc. Everything is spirits. That is very hard for us to do, but that's been my main challenge over the last few years, is to immerse myself completely in the spirit paradigm. So I now confidently say that I do believe in the gods. I believe in them firmly and vividly. And this makes my life more interesting and more vivid, and makes my magic, it makes it, I feel like it's got more significance. It's not necessarily more powerful. It may be, but it's certainly more significant, because I'm dealing with an ecosystem of consciousnesses which are not in bodies.
That's very interesting you've come to that. I mean, with me, over the years, I would have probably done, very similar to what chaos magicians do, really, as a kind of contrarian magician. Yeah, and so I distinctly remember again, I don't know, maybe late 90s, you know, like literally Odin, Thor, Freya, you know, Woden, whatever, you know, all of that were real. So I went through a period of that you know, you know, but I knew I was going to go through that, you know, I decided to. And you know, and what can I say? There was a rich life, you know, life was richer, and I always remember, yeah, when my daughter Audra was probably about 8, you know, it's a lovely summer's day and out in the garden. And I used to, because I've always been very close to the Northern tradition, you know, the Norse myths. So I would naturally have been talking about them anyway, whatever I was up to. But I remember because I'd gone into this, they are real. You know, you're talking to her about Thor, you know, and going through and telling her some of the stories about Thor. And it was a lovely summer's day. And then there was a little rumble of thunder in the distance. And there was absolutely no thunderstorm after that later. It was just, well, I know it happens in summer, but it was just at that moment. And then there was another thing where, because when she was probably about that age, she was into Harry Potter. And so I'd got the latest book. And I decided to hide it in the garden. And I said to her, oh, there's some magic, and something is going to be brought to you by magic. So I went out in the garden, and honestly, this happened. You know, it wasn't a raven, but it was a crow. It swooped right down to where I'd hidden.
Oh, wow.
Harry Potter book, and it was almost like it delivered it. So she, oh my God, it was delivered by magic, like Odin. I said, yeah, I know it was a crow and not a raven. And to this day, you know, we talk about that. And she said, yeah, I really believed that at the time, you know, and she that because she's got fond memories of all those myths that I would talk to her about. So that was me going into that paradigm of the gods and goddesses are real, as you said. There was many other incidents, but I won't necessarily, you know, bore people by going on about them. But yeah.
You're living in a magical reality there, aren't you? You're doing something which has effects that appear to cycle through a disembodied intelligence that's not yours. And I think that's a much richer way of living, to my mind. I mean, this is what the rewards of believing in the gods more concretely are. It's that you're living in a richer reality, that everything you do has more significance. You know, we live in this disenchanted world. I mean, this is a bit of a cliche, and a lot of people say this, but it's true. Our world has been systematically disenchanted so that we can, you know, we can rip everything we want for our consumer society out of it. I want to go in the opposite direction to that. I want to go in the direction of, you know, of a living world that I'm embedded in, not a dead world that I'm dominating and cutting to bits.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree. Yeah, it's been deadened, the world, and it's become, I'd say it metaphorically, as very metallic and nuts and bolts, and there is very little inspiration. But as you say, the moment you decide that, and I still do, you know, I go up and down, you know, so you know, the you know, obviously the gods and Thor and Odin are real, you know, and those times and yeah, so I mean, as you say, it does make life rich, more significant going on, and yeah, you know, and then obviously my scientism mindset comes back and says, oh, it's nonsense, really, you know, it's just a diversion, you know, and actually your life is less richer immediately, you know.
Yeah, it's very difficult to step outside of scientism. It's a religion which has got, like all religions, it's a load of rubbish. You know, if you believe in it literally, it's a load in terms of the literal truth of what it says, it's rubbish. It's philosophically bankrupt. But it's just as with any religion you're brought up in, it's very difficult to step outside of completely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, okay. So yeah, on that one. I think, yeah, we would say that it's certainly worth, you know, depending where you are, you know, going at least thinking, as Dave has done and is doing, you know, it's just think, even if it's just like for 1 week, I'm going to take it as real. I'm going to immerse myself in that belief system and then see what the results are, you know, how rich your life is. And I think that would be a very, you know, good way of going on. But anyway.
Yeah.
So that's it on that one, and we will be back another time. So thanks again, Dave.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Yeah,
good one.
Fare you well, everyone.